What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Steady, and with me on this Stranger Things Season 4, Part 2 episode is the one and only Mike.
What's up, guys? I'm Mike, and we are going through 2022 Electric Boogaloo. And it's not a Countdown City Claudio cast, but I'm sure I'll get his name in there a few times anyways.
Yeah.
That's already one. And rejoining us after having our amazing Part 2 preview episode is Matt and Lauren. Welcome back, guys.
Hey! No beer spilt this time, thank God.
Why? What happened last time? Tell us.
Oh, you don't remember at the beginning? I mean, the beer just went everywhere. But
Yeah.
it's
I
fine.
remember. I just want you to hear you say it again.
I don't remember any of that
He
episode.
doesn't at all. Thank God I was here to carry the show.
That was a very unique and interesting discussion that we had. And not only that, but then like the balloon floated in the shot from
Yeah.
downstairs. It traveled like 100 feet just to like scare the hell out of me
I
during the
apparently
stream.
missed
All
some,
right.
and I guess I got to go back and check this out after we're done.
It was a lot of weird things happened that night. We don't talk about that. That was probably also our latest stream ever. We ended like just after 1 a.m. We started
Wow.
an hour before the show started. Part 2 was like released. So yeah, definitely. We want to hear from you guys. If you're in the chat, say what's up. Tell us hi. Tell us how much you enjoyed, or maybe how much you didn't enjoy the final 2 episodes of
Oh.
season 4 of Stranger Things. We want to hear from you guys. So drop your thoughts in the chat, and we're going to be talking all about it. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, spoiler alert. And we're also going to give our theories towards the end of the stream, and we want to hear yours as well. Drop your theories in the chat. We will read off the best ones and laugh at the worst ones. I'm just kidding. We won't laugh at the worst ones, but we want to
Laugh
hear
a
from you
little bit.
guys. We'll laugh a little bit. Usually, this is the part of the show where I just begin talking about the summary of the episode, but this was nearly 4 hours of content between the last 2 episodes. So I'm just going to try and hit the high points. I really don't want to go through every single minute detail of what went on the last 2 episodes. So we'll start out with the death of Papa. 11 was trapped by Papa, who was like, no, you're not going to save the world. I'm going to keep you here. You're not ready yet. 11 was able to escape. Luckily, Mike and crew were in the in the bus, showing up just in the nick of time. Papa was shot, got attacked by the military, who was taking over the Papa's facility. Papa gets shot. 11 jumps in the bus. They take off, and they're able to help out the rest of the crew from there on out. Let's see here. Robin has a happy ending. Gets to spend some time with her, with the girl she's interested in. Mike and Elle sort of rekindle things towards the end of the episode. Joyce and Hopper also rekindle things towards the end of the season, the end of the final episode. They take on the Demogorgons in the Russian prison once again in order to sort of weaken the hive mind from the Upside Down. Will's still going through some things, but luckily older brother is there to help him out. Let's see. We did lose the most probably interesting new character of any season of Stranger Things. Of course, if you haven't already seen it, I do apologize, but we do lose Eddie in the most metal and miraculous of fashions. He
Do
overcame
we
his fear.
though?
He didn't run. He played Master of Puppets just before his demise. But in the end, he saves not only Dustin, but briefly saves the city of the town of Hawkins by delaying the bats that were trying to cross over. And then finally, I guess we'll just talk about the fall of Hawkins. The town of Hawkins has been rocked by what seems to be a massive breach between the Upside Down and our reality. Vecna was defeated, kind of, but he still had his will was done, and so that still occurred. And he does not actually die in the episode. We get a nice Halloween '78 sort of cliffhanger there at the end when he vanishes from the front steps of his mansion-esque house. Yeah, we'll do that.
Murder house.
So that's
Murder
my
House.
crappy summary, but there's a lot going on, so we'll get all into it. Legacy Nerd is on YouTube. See, it says, Sup? What's up? Sup? What's going on, man? And he says, episodes, the last two movies. Ha! Yes, they were just about movie length, but no complaints, right? I enjoyed the hell out of it. No complaints whatsoever.
I wanted more.
Absolutely. Mike, I'm going to start with you, man. Let us know sort of, did these last two episodes meet your expectations? And then we'll really start talking about the details of some of these characters and some of these plot points.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna just ask if I enjoyed it, did it meet my expectations? Definitely. It was a great show. I was invested after the first 7 episodes. At the beginning of June. Um, I wasn't sure. Like where do you end this? How far does it go? So when they kind of started showing they were going to get that final battle with, it looks like a final battle with Vecna, and they eventually give you some more lore about the Upside Down. You kind of learn a little bit more about it.
Right.
Um, when you kind of were just doing a brief summary of the characters there, I feel like you left out the biggest one. Because I've told you this, and I've said this since it happened.
I did.
I am a huge fan of Eddie. Love him. I am here for all the TikTok videos, all the tributes, because he dies going out a hero. The person I'm worried about and feel like the worst for is Max.
MVP, yeah.
Because there's a kid who's kind of just had it rough the whole time, sacrifices herself in a way, and I don't know when we want to talk about it, but kind of gets brought back, but we're not like that last scene where Elle's in the Upside Down and Max isn't there really leaves me kind of interested and worried about where that goes in season 5.
Absolutely. And it's not necessarily the Upside Down, but it's sort of like Max's
That in
consciousness.
between, or yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of an Inception type where she's like able to get in her head, but like nobody's home. So that seems really dark, and it seems like it has more ramifications than what they're telling us. They could just change it. She could just wake up all of a sudden, next season, but we'll find out. Next, we'll go ladies first. Lo, your thoughts about the final 2 episodes? What do you think?
I just want to piggyback off of what Mike said.
See what you did there. I like it.
I think you're at least I'm feeling the same way with how Max's character is kind of left in the unknown, and I feel like that could be a potential for Vecna to use her as a vessel, maybe in season 5, or maybe she's gone forever and her body is just kind of there, and it's potentially a vessel for maybe another character that's trapped in the Upside Down to come back. So that's kind of my fan theory with Max. But for some reason, I was under the assumption that season 4 was the last season. So I'm watching these last 2 episodes like, wait a second.
How could it end this way?
There's so many unanswered questions. So I'm very glad that there's going to be a whole nother season. I'm very upset that we have to wait 2 years for it. Yeah. But I thought the last 2 episodes were pretty good. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and I know Matthew's going to talk about one in particular situation that went down. But I mean, all in all, I feel it was very entertaining. They've done such a great job of developing these characters and creating these storylines and introducing new characters as well. So I'm excited for season 5.
Ooh, me as well. last, never the least, Maddie B. What's going on, sir? Your final thoughts, not your final thoughts, but your thoughts on the final two
Oh,
episodes
damn, you
of
kicking
Stranger
me off?
Things.
She's that good, huh? Sheesh, I knew I shouldn't have brought her on. But no, I thought it was tremendous. Having gone back and revisited it a little bit, I can see how my initial thoughts were wrong. I didn't really love it the first time that I watched it. I thought that it
What?
I thought that we kind of ended up back in the same place the first time that I watched it. The consequences weren't that high. Eddie, we hadn't had Eddie the whole time. He was kind of a newer character. I mean, losing him sucks. I liked Eddie's character, but the stakes for the story weren't that high. So we also like didn't lose Max. And I was told that bodies were going to hit the floor. I thought this was going to be
Let the
a
bodies hit the floor.
a tremendous ending here with mass casualty of characters that we love. That did not happen, and not that I wanted it to happen, but that's what I was expecting. So, but
You
having
wanted
revisited,
destruction.
I think that they tied it into seasons 1 through 3 very well with Vecna's intentions and tying him back into all of that. I thoroughly enjoyed, that Eddie scene there was probably the most metal thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, the way that he died though was not. It's not very metal the way he went out. But it is what it is. I thought it was pretty good. I just don't know. Nothing changed that much.
Ooh, all right, okay.
I mean,
We'll get it. We'll get into
something's
that
been
for sure.
attacking the town. It's been happening.
We'll get into that for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I will also say that these last two episodes felt like a major event for me, my son, our household. We treated it as such. We stayed at watched first episode, watched second one the next morning, but we were excited. We were on the edge of our seat. We cheered, we laughed, we got emotional on most parts. And I had this kind of big feeling. We talked about it before it released on our previous show. I said this is going to be the Empire Strikes Back of Stranger Things. This will be the Infinity War movie of Stranger Things, and sort of I'll pat myself a little bit on the back. The town has basically become this gaping hole to the upside down, and a few dozen people lost their lives also when that happened. I think it's what the newscast said. So a bunch of off-screen nobodies, yeah, for sure. But I think that this is a major revelation, a major turning point in the series. Now you have to really up the ante going forward, and we'll also talk about that. What our theories for in the future. But what I'm going to say now is that now that there's a massive gateway to the upside down, sort of like all bets are off, and you really need to start bringing in like military, and you really need to start having a heavy militant presence to start handling these things. It could be somewhat about the kids still, but now they should be well in over their heads now that things have gotten this bad. It doesn't feel like it's the same, like we're back to square one with me, because now they can't really handle this. 11 can try to close this massive gateway herself like she's done in the past, but it feels like it's more than she can handle. And another theory that I'll mention later, it might take too much for her to handle in order to close this thing on her own. Awesome. Yeah.
I had some thoughts for you guys real quick.
Go for it.
What about I think there's a potential that Max will now have some sort of supernatural power. Maybe it's not the same type of powers that 11 has, but if we think about this, she's one of the four that was supposed to be killed and helped to open these portals by Vecna, and she was miraculously brought back to life by 11. So she has now been touched by Vecna and 11, and that her coming out of this coma, she may have a connection to both of them and the upside down that 11 and her might have to utilize in order to bring everything back down. I think there's a big potential that Max doesn't wake up normal, and that she may have and 11 might have to help her train a little bit on some of the things. Again, I don't think she's going to get the same powers as both of them, but I think that there may be some sort of a supernatural ability that she is going to wake up with.
Yeah.
I like that idea. That's up in the ante right there. Somebody else getting some, telekinetic powers. Roms is in YouTube. He says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Roms?" And Drew's also here. Says 11 still needs to learn to fly. Papa mentioned that. Ooh, take that a little bit.
I had thought about that too. Kind of going back to something, kind of connecting what y'all both said, because earlier, Ted, you said this is getting too big now. Like you need the military in there. I get that for the city. Like the city of Hawkins needs some help, but in the end, it's going to be the kids that deal with Vecna
Have
in
to.
the Upside Down. The kids and the family. That's an intriguing idea about Max. I'm not sure if I have a real concrete idea yet of what I think, because like for her character, because I think there is a lot of ways you can go with where she's at. Does she stay in this coma for a long period of time? Does she wake up? Is she a vessel? Does she have the powers? Like, there's a lot of ways you can go with that. Um, there's all. It's funny because another thing that people brought up was that season 2 sister episode that apparently no one liked, so they never mentioned it again.
Oh yeah, the girl
who has the powers to
yeah.
show things.
Yeah.
She didn't even appear, as far as I could tell, in the flashback of season 4 where they're at the hospital. Like they talked. I remember there being like 10, 1, 11, 2, and I think
Yeah.
she was 8, right? So
Yeah, she was 8.
some people are like, do you bring that back, or are we just now like retconning that never really happened? We're not going to
Oops.
mention her again. But
I say
mean,
they bring it back.
it would
I say
make
they bring it
sense,
back. Yeah.
especially if you, like you said, need kids with powers. I mean, and she's connected to the program, so some interesting stuff that could happen there with her.
I just hope it doesn't if they do make her fly, if we're bringing in multiple kids with powers, and it's hard to say this because The Chronicle is one of my favorite movies of all time. For some reason I really love that movie,
It's a good
but
one.
I don't want it to look like that at the
Yeah.
end, where we have kids flying around and a lot of people have powers. I
Patrick
think that
Stewart showed
really
up.
has to come down to Vecna and 11. Obviously, that's the end game. That's where we're going. The ancillary characters are going to have to beef it up. I agree with Ted on the military presence in Hawkins. I think we'll get a storyline somewhere around there where the kids are trying to get back into help, but the military is actually trying to keep out. Like, oh, kids, you can't help us, and so a lot of that of the politics of the show might kind of revolve around that. But I don't want it to. I don't want 1,000 people with powers in town, and all of a sudden, I just still want it to look like The Chronicle. You know what I mean?
Hawkins
I
School
got
for
you.
Gifted Children.
Hey. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Yellow
Legacy
flag
Nerd
wheelchair.
Legacy Nerd asks, so where did Conan's sword come from for Hop? So here's the only thing that makes sense, right? Back when Hopper was an actual prisoner, before they broke out, they were all forced to fight against the
Right.
Demogorgon, but they're really just food for the Demogorgon. So they were all given weapons before the Demogorgon was released to slaughter them all, and one of them had to have been holding the sword. If it's not there, then it must have been still like on the wall or on a rack where like they could have picked it up but they didn't. That's the only theory that makes sense. If anybody else has a better one, please let us know.
No, that's what I assumed it was to be. Just it was one of those weapons from that the season, like you said earlier, in the first part of season 4 when they were forced to fight. And they had things that looked like that. They had swords. They had like like spikes and stuff like that. So it was a great Easter egg when I heard about it. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and they kept it real. Like they've always kept it 80s. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but they kept it
Yeah.
real 80s this season.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
And they were throwing intentional
Easter eggs.
Yeah, they were like it almost became like meta, if that makes sense. Like they were
Yeah.
aware of and kind of even poking fun at themselves a little bit.
Real quick, when you started at the very beginning of the show, speaking of all the Easter eggs, the beginning of Papa, like when they get her out against the military, how much of that is an homage to Star Wars? You have the training character who wants to leave too early. You have the showdown in the hallway, like Vader in Rogue One. You have her controlling the helicopter with force powers. There was a lot of
I,
homages to
I,
Star
I didn't
Wars.
think about that, but that actually does make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
There was some, Star Warsy moments, especially through that particular segment there.
yeah, they're at the
And
beginning.
do you
It's
think
it's
Papa has to come back for 11?
Papa's dead.
I
I'm
know,
pretty
but
sure he's
it's
dead.
gone,
but
man.
maybe,
It's
maybe.
gone. It's
Well, I
gone.
mean,
I mean,
that's usually
we
the
felt
story
like
of
he's
the
died a
hero,
lot of
though,
time.
right? Like the parental figure has to die, so they do it on their own.
Yeah.
I feel like in the story that was like Papa's done. She needs to go out on her own. I don't think so, but I mean, you never know. We'll talk about potential time travel coming up, so I don't know.
I'm
I don't
joking
think
about that.
anything's
I'm joking
impossible.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think there's. We're
I
talking about alternate
anything.
universes and an upside down, so I don't think too much is out of play. I
Yeah.
mean,
Nothing's off the table.
And the
yeah,
relevance of the clock too that they
yeah.
kept talking about with Vecna. Like maybe that's a way that 11, it's like a Back to the Future moment where like 11 has to go back and like change Vecna's ways in some way, shape, or form, maybe in order to keep him from doing what he's doing. But there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of time references.
Yeah.
And we're jumping into a new decade from what I hear. So
Potentially,
I
yeah,
think it does
for
make
sure.
sense.
And we
Yeah.
also know now, because of Nancy's diary, that the current state of the
Right.
Upside Down is not current.
That
Mm.
too.
So there is still time, given the Upside Down, to go back and potentially reverse anything Vecna had done, because it wouldn't have started. Those 4 killings hadn't started yet, based
Are,
on the dates
What
of
was going on in the Upside Down?
Nancy's
are we
diary.
getting a time heist? Are
What
we
does that
quantum realming?
mean? That was a very interesting sort of detail, and you're right. That must come into play. And yes, I was joking before we started the show. This was the Infinity War sort of
Yeah.
ending, where
Yeah.
things get really bad, and now the next one has to be time travel. That's how you fix it. But no, now you're probably on to something. Real quick, Rom's had a great question. Do you guys think Will is cursed again? We know that he has some very sort of influential attachment ties to the Upside Down, to the Mind Flayer. How much is that going to play into next season? I think that because he sort of took a backseat a little bit in season 4, like he was going through his own personal things, but yet he's sort of a side character when it comes to just helping 11 or helping anybody else. So yeah, I think he'll now kind of step into the forefront a little once again next season, and that tie could be sort of a major hindrance to him. It could make him more what's what I'm looking for? He could be more in
Vulnerable.
danger than vulnerable. He could
Vulnerable?
be more vulnerable than anybody else because he has those ties. And now the Upside Down is basically a giant gaping hole in the middle of Hawkins,
Yeah.
and that probably will have to affect him going forward. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, just because like I don't think he's cursed again like season 2, where the mind flayer and that swirly dust of stuff was inside him, but he's clearly still connected. If he was touched or what has the mark still or whatever you consider it, he still clearly has a connection and a spider sense to it, if you will. So yeah, like I kind of agree with you. I think he's going to be a huge part of season 5. He's going to play an important role because, in a sense, it all started with him. I mean, I
Right.
know when we go further back in the story, like it had to do with 11, but from us watching the series, it started with him being kidnapped. So I think it's going to come full circle with his
Yeah,
importance by the end.
Max sort of took over that role for Will, because Will at first was sort of our connection to the Upside Down,
Yeah,
and then Max sort of took that role over from Will a little bit as far as the show goes,
yeah,
and now we're dealing with his emotional connection to Mike, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a fallout there in the next season, because Will obviously has feelings for Mike. He
Yeah.
kind of came out about that in his own way as much as he could for the time era that this took place in.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's clear that there's some resentment building there, and I'm wondering how Mike's character. He's one of my. I'm more interested in that character arc there because I think they need to pull him back into a main role with helping to figure this stuff out, or at least being more involved than he kind of has been in this season.
I have a theory on the Will situation. I think it's definitely going to surround him as a main character. To your point, Mike, kind of making things come full circle. I think, though, his feelings towards Mike and Eleven's relationship is going to build resentment. And Vecna kept talking about having somebody by his side. I think because
Oh my gosh.
I think because Will is connected to the Upside Down, he's going to try and recruit Will to come to his side to fight Hawkins. And there's going to be that natural, resentment towards his friends and his family because of everything that he's been through, that Mike or Will might end up being one of the villains of next season.
And his mom is still like not taking care of him. She's like obsessed with Hopper. She's in Russia. like seriously, Mike has Will has nobody. That's why he's so pissed at Mike.
Yeah.
He's got nobody.
Will's like,
in all fairness,
now.
Mike has like one parent really. Like that dad has been so MIA of stuff the entire series. Like it's funny, but also like he just complains about the friends and doesn't know that his wife almost went to go hook up with a high school kid and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Hey, but that scene was sizzling.
Yeah.
You put ice on that, it'll boil.
That dad is actually one of my favorite written characters on the show, and I'm just waiting for him to like turn the switch and like pull out a shotgun and is like, let's do this. Like come out of his shell.
I can almost see a redemption now where like he winds up sacrificing himself for one of his kids because like you think he hasn't cared this entire time. I could almost see that in season 5 as a decent way to end him because I mean you've kind of not. I mean he's funny, but you've kind of not liked him the whole time because it's like, do you care about your kids? Like, do you have any idea what's going on?
And it's possible too because I mean, it looks the whole town is evacuating at the end of the season. It didn't look like Mike's family was particularly in a rush to go anywhere. It looked like they were pretty much, at the house. Depending on how long the time jump is that we're going to get here, is going to determine a lot of these storylines.
And that's what I was kind of talking with Ted previous to this is like, because I've heard too that there's going to be a time jump, and one of the reasons is they want the kids to be more age appropriate because like they're all supposed to be 14 now and they look like 20-year-olds going to get jobs and stuff. But so is the town just going to be sitting in this like, like hellmouth for 4 or 5 years? That's what I kind of find interesting is what are they going to deal with that time jump? Like, are they just cool with it? Like Vecna's just hiding out, waiting for the right 5-6 year plan, or
and is all the kids they're like retreated out of Hawkins with their family and they've kind of started new lives, or maybe they have to have a job or something, and they keep talking like I just don't know how they're gonna make that. Too much of a time jump is odd.
Is Steve gonna adopt more kills? So good.
This sounds like a very similar 80s plot. The movie It, where they have to.
Dude, oh my gosh. Babe, you're wrecking the points tonight.
Thanks.
I wish there was a score counter.
Wrecking it. I'm gonna go like just full blown theory that when they do this time jump, it's gonna be like beginning of Terminator 2. We're gonna see what the world looks like after Judgment Day. Instead of robots running everywhere, it's gonna be Demogorgons. Like I think all hell breaks loose. We get like a very short sort of last time on Stranger Things where like we see the kids and they'll show us as things like really hit the fan, everything sort of like starts really spewing out and the Demogorgons start running amok and the military is just gonna get either overrun or have to battle it, and it'll just become like a war zone. We'll flash forward, things have gotten bad, the surrounding areas have all been taken over, It's starting to look like the Upside Down. Hawkins is literally like a crater now, and the kids who will be aged up, they have to be. That's the only thing that makes any sense. Will have to overcome the Upside Down and the forces another way. That's what I kind of think. Rom says when one asked Eleven to join him, it reminded him of Maul and Ahsoka. Ooh, great comparison. Another
Nice.
Star Wars reference there. Legacy Nerd says, I thought it was really well written. My only issue is it seemed we were going to see Eleven learn how to go Super Saiyan, but it seemed she just cried a lot.
Well,
But that's kind of been 11 the whole time. Like
yeah.
she hasn't, and she's still a little girl, but and who had a very traumatic life. So she's going to be emotionally unstable. She has not cracked her ceiling yet, or even close. And that was like my exponential theory of like, because one is Vecna, super incredibly powerful. Like 11, it represents kind of double that. Like it's X2. Like I think she can go well above his potential.
You think
And
so?
I really
I
do.
think she's hit. I think
I
she's hit
think
her
she can.
limit. She
I don't know.
overcame him in the Upside Down in Max's mind. She overcame him in Max's mind, like freed herself, and was able to overpower him then. And then she brought a person back from the dead, essentially. And I feel like that's her limit right there.
Okay, two things kind of connect with that. I feel like it's kind of a maybe like a Jedi Sith thing, if you will, where like one has no problem using all the hatred and evil of the powers, and 11 is only kind of using them to like defend herself, defend her friend. She's not really looking to like become this all powerful. So I kind of think I kind of agree with them that like she could become powerful enough and to outdo him. Another thing, we keep coming back to Max, and we kind of assume that like Levin has some new power of like like they threw Force Spring back to life in the last Jedi or the last Star Wars movie out of nowhere. I kind of just assume she like since she has like telekinetic, she just like got her heart beating from the inside, almost like a defibrillator where you put them when the chest is open. I kind of thought it was a more practical to her powers, not that she's literally like come back, come back to life now. But that's just me. I don't know because that would be a crazy power to go that far.
Because that's like top Jedi power right there, is when you start bringing people,
Yeah.
back to life. Baby Yoda showed that power, and it's like, what? We never saw that power before. That's pretty big. Yeah,
I like those
Legacy Nerd
comments.
says maybe they ignore the crack in the earth, like the MCU is ignoring the hand on the Earth's surface. Yeah, the hand as well as like half a head of
Yeah.
one of the Titans. Yeah, absolutely. That's not
I
there.
like
Don't look
I
at
saw
it.
a comment somewhere, not to totally get us off track, but like they're like certainly online influencers are like flying out to that thing and taking pictures in the middle of the
Right?
ocean all over this like celestial hand in head that are supposed to be there now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I could see it being like a Matrix type thing though, where like the one at the end of Revolutions when you know Neo has to go to the machines. In this instance, it would be 11 in front of the Demogorgons and Vecna or whatever, and she just uses her power or does whatever that she can to sort of bring peace or to just destroy everything at one time while sacrificing herself.
Yeah, I
Don't
could
you dare
definitely
take
see
my
that.
theories,
Yeah.
Matt. Don't you dare
What
take
do you
my
mean
theories,
take your
Matt.
theories? We're both just
It's
smart guys. Only one of us is handsome though. So
yeah. It's got to be you, of course.
Definitely
yeah,
Ted.
we'll put up a poll. We'll put up a poll. Yeah, Big Mike's got this one.
It's up to you, Mike. Make the vote.
Funko. Oh, like am I choosing or am I in the poll too? Because Funko Pops guys vote for
Now,
me.
even the presidents can vote for themselves.
No, that's a good point.
We could jump to maybe theories about that because you guys already talked about it. I feel like the Upside Down sort of needs its own focus, its own center, its own sort of leader in a way. I don't know if you can do that without it. Or maybe the only way to have it close because this breach is so vast is to have it collapse sort of inward, like destroy the upside down from the upside down. You can't close the doors anymore because there's no doors on the hinges any longer. All that to say, I think it takes a sacrifice by 11, whether it's her own life to close it or to destroy it, or she
Overpower.
sort of needs to take the place of Vecna. Somebody has to now control all this energy when there's that void, and it's the only way to keep our reality safe is by someone controlling those forces and that energy from the upside down. It's it's a very heroic sacrifice for someone to just willingly do that. Like, hey, you're gonna run hell from now on, or if it's not that,
Uh,
it's just
like what was
destroy
the
it
one in
from
Pirates of the
that side.
Caribbean
Oh
where
yeah,
Will
Alone
takes
with the
over
Moon.
the Flying Dutchman?
That's
So now
right.
I'm sorry, like after whatever amazing stuff goes down in season 5, like if that happens, I just have this epilogue in my head of like she's running the upside down. So they're just talking to each other through the lights now. Like they're still communicating, they're still in touch. I just can't see each other like what's the Greek myth of Persephone or whatever, like in the underworld, 6 months out of the year, whatever. Like they can see each other a few times, but otherwise they got to communicate through the lights. I
It's
don't know.
just
It's
like
just
Will Turner in Pirates. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly like that.
Yeah, I think my theory, what I would like to see happen the most would be for Mike to somehow die, send 11 into a mind spiral. But then we're in the 90s now, and Will and 11 can just kind of have their own like Will and Grace spinoff.
No.
That would be. You know what?
Very nice. Very nice. But who's gonna be just Jack? That's what I want to know.
Just
Dustin.
maybe Dustin, yeah.
There you go. It could be Dustin.
Definitely Dustin.
It could be Dustin. Legacy Nerd asks, "What about the theory, the fan theory, that Vecna is actually Eleven's father?" That's interesting
Speaking of Star
because,
Wars,
yeah, right. I'm not against it, but I sort of thought it was implied that it is Vecna or the blood of one that allows them to spread this
Mm.
ability to other kids, whether it's his actual blood or whether it's
Cloning.
sort of not cloning per se, but I feel like not all these kids were born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask. It's never specifically said, right? Even in all the time they talk about the program, it's never specifically stated. Because I kind of feel like when they did a little bit about 11 and her birth with her mom, it was implied 11 was born special, but they never clarify it. So that could be interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
I feel like he's kind of young, no?
Yeah, I do too. I don't know if I don't subscribe to the theory,
How
but I
how
can see
old
why
is he
people.
in the flashbacks? That
Oof.
Well, she's like
I
11.
She's
I would say he's probably like 17 to 20
he
tops.
looks
I
like
would
it,
say
but
that 17 to 20.
would you be surprised if they're like actually he was like 29?
Well, I
He
mean,
kind of
there's some 9-year-olds these days. I mean, you never know.
yeah.
I mean,
You never know, that's for sure. But I just feel
But
like he's kind of young, and
no, I
the
agree. Yeah,
depiction of him in this season, he felt more of like a brotherly figure
yeah, it's
than
more like a
than a
brother. Yeah,
right.
father.
yeah. But I mean, again, it's 80s. We saw with Empire Strikes Back, they can throw you for a loop real fast. We didn't know that Luke had just kissed his sister in the movie.
That too.
We didn't know that
I
was
don't
going to
think George
happen.
Lucas knew either, but we'll debate
he
that.
didn't. Yeah, George didn't know that when he was making the first one anyway. So I think no matter what, it is sort of his tissue or his DNA that's being used to sort of spread the ability. At least that's what I took from it, and then my son took from it the same thing. It's either his blood or somehow the ability is being passed from one to all these other kids, because I think there are kids that don't survive the process, right? I thought I heard that.
I I'm gonna have to
These
go
are the
back and watch
ones.
it again now.
These are the ones that make it. The ones that are still alive and stuff. But not everybody actually survives the process from transferring the abilities to others.
Well, either way, if that's true, do you think we get any explanation for where even his powers would come from? Because, like, as far as we know, his dad was a war vet, his mom was a normal person. You know, he has a sister, and he's the only one that seems to have he's a little different. He has his powers. Is there a further super soldier serum, if you will? Do
Maybe
you
he was
think they go any?
adopted.
Yeah, do they? Do we go further back into his story to figure that out, or do they just go forward with what we know so far? Because I mean, you don't really explain where this unique power comes from, other than he was kind of a strange child so far, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah. No idea.
Yeah, and
I
it's
I
tough, and we
I
don't
do
really
think
want to
he's born with it.
rehash too much either.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true. Like I don't need an explanation. Just crazy kid somehow opened up his mutant gene and started going off on people. I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with that. If you want to
It's a
give us
Terrigen mist, is what happened.
if you want to give us a supernatural explanation for like how it really started in him or when did it start, totally fine with that. But I'm totally fine. I don't need more twists. Which
Okay, yeah.
this this season gave us a lot of twists that I wasn't asking for, and I'm all for everything they did. So it was even that much more entertaining. Legacy Nerd says late 20s according to the timeline his father gave. Also, didn't they say Eleven's mother was heavily drugged with LSD while pregnant? Yeah, probably. I always assumed that Papa was the literal Papa of 11. That
No.
maybe his seed with 11's mom. Not to say that they were in a romantic relationship. Like this was a our father type situation, where like she was forcibly impregnated, um, IVF, whatever have you, and and then 11 had those abilities because of whatever testing they also did. Legacy Nurse says like 19 to 20 by the time 11 was born, saying the age of one is what he's guessing.
Yeah.
Saw the timeline and have to look at it again. I think that's what we kind of figured. He's probably in that late teens
He's
Yeah, but
he's her
range.
brother in one way or another. They're all
Yeah.
connected in whatever it is. I don't think they're going to get into the bloodline as far as the family goes, but they were raised together. They grew up in the same environment. As far as the story is concerned, so far, he is was served as a brotherly type figure. It looked like he was trying to groom her a
Mhm.
little bit during that return there to join him. And I don't think that it just didn't come across as fatherly to me. It came across very much like a brother type.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
I agree. That's what I think as well. If they do it, not against it, but it's just a twist that I don't really need. Let's talk about season 5 death theories, and we'll also talk about how our season 4 finale theories panned out. Lo, do you remember who you thought was going to bite the bullet in these 2 episodes, and were
Yeah.
you right?
I was not right because I thought this was the end. So I had thought that 11 was going to get it. I thought Max was going to get it, which I was pretty close on that. I was half
You
right on
will
that
give
one.
you that one because
Yeah.
yeah,
She
she
did
did
die.
definitely get it. Yeah.
I was half right on that one. And then my third one was Nancy. Got that wrong.
You did, and I was like, no, not Nancy. Anyone but Nancy.
Yeah. But as far as theories go for the final season,
Nancy again.
this is the final season this time.
Right.
I think there was a huge campaign and storyline to protect Steve at all costs this season. I think Steve is going to be one of our main beloved characters that is going to not make it in season 5, which I'm a huge Steve fan, which is going to suck. It's going to suck for Nancy big time. But I don't think Steve's going to make it. I think, going off of what we've been talking about tonight, 11 is more than likely going to sacrifice herself. I think that just makes the most sense in order to close the the gates and all of that, whether she's still alive in the Upside Down or she's gone forever. I think 11's going, and I would say, oh, as much as it pains me to say this, I think Hopper's going to go too. And that might be something that triggers 11 to just like go off. I think the Mike death would be something that would trigger her, but I think her connection with Hopper is so strong that would just make her completely come off the hinges and do what she needs to do to protect everyone else.
I could see that. Matt, we'll go to you next, sir. How did your season 4 death theories pan out, and what does it look like for you now for season 5?
I was dead wrong about everything. I think I said Steve, Dustin, and Mike. I think
you said 11, or maybe you did say Mike.
I think I set it up in the way that Steve would try to sacrifice himself for something, and then like Dustin wouldn't want him to do that, and then maybe hopped in after him because he's got this newfound sort of confidence as he's coming into his own as a man, and then that would cause Mike to go in, and then they would die, and then 11 would freak out because I also too, for some reason, I don't know where I got this in my head, but I thought 4 was the last season, so I was building all these theories for something that wasn't ending. So I was dead wrong about everything.
We did the previous show.
Bodies were gonna drop.
I mean, they said bodies. They said bodies were gonna drop.
They're talking about the 24 town people that we didn't know about.
Yeah, but that doesn't count, Ted. You're building a web of lies.
Yeah, I wasn't the one that said it. It was the Duffer Brothers and all the cast.
Oh yeah, what do they call that? Plot armor.
There you go.
So
plausible deniability is what I call it.
Game of Thrones season 8 plot armor.
Ooh, yeah.
No, there was some chinks in that one, but I would say that in this next season, I think 11's definitely going to go. I don't think Mike is going to go, and maybe 11 doesn't go either because I think they might want them to, sort of go off into the sunset, sort of a WandaVision they could do with a nice little spinoff with 11 and Mike. But no, I don't know. I think that Dustin, he seems pretty concrete, but he had a close run in there soon. I'm going to stick with the same theory I had the last time because I think I was right, but I thought it was going to be the ending. So now that this one's the ending, I'm going to go with, I'm going to actually switch it up a little bit. Steve, Dustin, and what's his face? Who's the guy Nancy's with that we all don't want him to be with? That we want him to be with. Yeah, Jonathan. Maybe that gets him out of the story for us. Okay,
kills both of her love interests off. Jeez.
Hopefully,
what a romantic.
He can run a little dirty in this.
He's not being my favorite right now.
She'll end up with Argyle. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Dude, Argyle's the man. Though.
Yeah,
Argyle's so cool.
He is hilarious.
Just when like he's measuring 11, he's like, "Yep, I know just the place," and they just walk off and follow him. I'm like, "Are we really gonna believe this guy who's been like token like this whole time on this show?"
That's
the
beauty of his character though. Like he really helps them out a lot more than you realize.
Absolutely.
Even though you think he's just like the stoner friend.
Mm-hmm.
He made sure everybody was fed the whole time. That's the most important part.
You know what?
That's a great scene where they're getting ready for battle, and he just
he invented Hawaiian pizza. Did everybody else get that? He invented Hawaiian pizza, right?
It was the 80s. That's a good point.
They did make it seem like he invented the pizza, but I can also speak because, especially amongst the group I've met here in Texas, I am the stoner friend, and we are resourceful. We're very resourceful
of the group.
I think that makes people underestimate you, and then they just like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'll get to my theory, death theories for season 4. I was not all the way right. I thought Murray wasn't going to make it to the end, and lo and behold, not only did he make it, he killed the most Demogorgons out of anybody. Clearly, I totally forgot about Papa, and if I would have remembered he was going to be in this finale, I would have called him out. So I definitely didn't see that coming. I thought Steve or Jonathan one of them was gonna go. That way, Nancy makes an easier choice going forward. But that didn't happen either. The one that I did get right was the one I didn't want to happen, and that was Eddie. And I called that one because I'm like, because you wrote such an amazing charismatic character, you're just lifting us up with this guy just so you could tear him down in front of us. But they did it in probably the best way they could. Not only was he playing Metallic in the Upside Down, but he sort of he didn't need to redeem himself. He just needed to overcome sort of what he felt was always holding him back. And so him lying in Dustin's arms saying, I didn't run. I didn't run. If that doesn't get you emotional, I don't know what does. That was a tearjerker. That was pulling on the emotional strings there. Season 5 Death Theories, I already said sort of 11. I feel like it's her ultimate sacrifice that's going to end the Upside Down forever. I don't think it's enough to close it anymore. I think there has to be a solid ending for it. So I will say that's definitely going to happen. Um, I'll go Steve or Jonathan again. I wasn't right the last time, but I'll call it this time. Steve or Jonathan.
Double down, double down.
One of them has to go out. That way we make it easier for Nancy. Nancy, who will stay alive, by the way. Robin was actually sort of fourth or fifth on my list this season, but she actually made it out. That surprised me a lot. And I don't think Dustin. I really don't think Lucas. I don't know. I don't know who the last one would be.
Lucas always seems to be the most out of danger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got in a fist fight in the final parts here, but he's never really in crazy danger. Not like some of the other ones have been. And I think Lucas definitely will be one of the ones that makes it out.
With you just saying that, it just reminded me. Can we kind of talk about how cool the Jason death was? It was a Jason, the basketball player. Because that dude was just like a huge racist jerk the whole time.
Yeah, dude, he was like super alt right. Like that's what like the news tells you alt right is. He's like this crazy gun fanatic who's like.
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't usually like haha, but like when he just got split, I was like, oh haha.
Damn.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I was like, that's pretty cool. Missed it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, wait, how did, like, hello, yeah, he did. You haven't been watching it intently like you're supposed to.
Yeah. I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah. No, definitely.
It might have been just me, but I was like, I'm still on the fence with this guy. Like, I feel like at any moment he's gonna turn around and like shoot a bat that comes out of the ground, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm sorry. Like, we're cool now, right?" That didn't happen. Instead, he got the Darth Maul death, basically. Mike, do you have season 5 death theories?
I was kind of thinking about this too because not to totally go to the end right away, but like you assume we're going to defeat the evil in one way or another at the end. So like I'm kind of thinking about what's the group that's like left to deal with all of this at the end. I do think 11's going to go too. I think that's just with her powers. It kind of feels like we talked about earlier that kind of like if you want to say go Super Saiyan or whatever it is needed to close it all up or to destroy Vecna and the Mind Flayer stuff, whatever it may be. I think she's going to go. I think some of the adults, like I think Hopper 2 will probably go. I'm going to throw the Wheeler dad in, even though he may redeem himself before he does, just because we were talking about him earlier. As far as the kids, I don't know. Like I understand that in series that get these big and are this good, like usually you have deaths of people you care about to make it more emotional. But I'm not sure I want to see too many of them actually wind up dead. So like they all fought and there's like, Dustin and Lucas left and that's all we've got left in the city after all this. But I do think Steve too, just because I thought he was going to go after his injuries after part 1. I thought that was headed. The only reason I don't think Jonathan, even though people don't like him as much, is because being Will's brother, I think there might be something there. And that being said, I think maybe Will maybe with all his connection to stuff, um, may wind up. I know you brought up the idea of him kind of turning evil because of a resentment. Maybe it's a sacrifice. That could lead to him sacrificing at the end once he realized what he's done. So, I mean, the main ones then I would go Hopper, Steve, Will, and 11 as the main ones.
I don't recall exactly, but I feel like if somebody gets a wound from a Demogorgon, I think that happened to Will, didn't it? And that's why he started like puking up slugs, because he actually like, it's sort of like a zombie. You get the infection, or you get the xenomorph egg inside you or
Yeah.
something. I kind of that maybe that it's the thing they'll try with Steve, is that because he had such a horrendous wound that he will probably not fully recover from it, or slowly, I don't know, something will happen to him physically. But yeah, I feel like that was going to be a thing they were going to do, but didn't see it at the end of the season. Maybe it's a thing they'll do later on. Legacy and Nerd says his choices are Steve. Okay, we all said maybe Steve. Dusty. I don't know why people want Dusty to die.
Yeah, I
And
know.
11, but they may do Return of the Jedi and Everybody Lives. They probably could. They probably will do that.
I
Let's
don't
let's
think it
be
would be
honest
the
here.
worst thing, depending on what they have to go through to get to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if everybody lives, as long as
Yeah.
they close the upside down.
I don't know. I think people's main characters are gonna pass. Every season a main character has gone. Like they wouldn't just not do that in the last season.
Given how they will introduce someone, Steve is our Frodo, kind of. I like that idea. But they
Oh
introduce a
man.
character that doesn't make it through the season. Maybe Robin's new female interest doesn't doesn't make it through season 5.
Oh, the Molly
Ah,
Because
Ringwald.
you
Before
hurt
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. That she
Very
was a
hard
Molly
left.
Ringwald, definitely.
It took me a double take. I'm like, is that Molly? Did they do a deep fake right
I
now?
thought
And
they,
She
I
had,
thought they deep faked Molly Ringwald for a little bit. To be honest with you, I
does
was
she have
like,
a
wow,
daughter or maybe a granddaughter by this point? You never know.
yeah, I'm not sure. But that they have a romance storyline going, um, and I don't know if how many love stories you're gonna have going at one time and try to wrap up by the
everybody
end.
needs a little love.
Yeah,
And then if you do a time jump, how many of those kind of
Fizzle
fade
out.
away with
flings.
everything going
Yeah,
on? Yeah. So
I
it'll be
think I
interesting.
think the college storyline with Nancy and Jonathan is over. I think it became very clear at the end of this season that Nancy is in love with Steve,
Yeah.
and that there's a rift between her and Jonathan. And I think that relationship is definitely going to be fizzled out by the time we get through this time jump.
There you go. Easy way out, I think. Rudy's in the chat. Rudy, what's going on, sir? Good to see you again. And
Well, I'm
Legacy
just gonna
Nerd
say one quick
reminds
thing to
me that
that. Okay.
what's that?
No, I
Legacy
was
Nerd
gonna say.
says Lucas almost
Go
got
ahead.
shot in the face. I remember that. I know. I'm saying I'm
Yeah.
on the fence. It was like just a little bit more before he can be redeemed at all, irredeemable. But yeah, no, I totally get it. What are you gonna say, Mike?
I was just gonna say with Nancy, it's actually with her just kind of a thing of proximity. Because like after she broke up with Steve in the early season, she spent time with Jonathan. They went to Murray's or whatever. They started getting close. Then he took off, and she went through all this combat with Steve. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I think it's perfectly normal. But if all of a sudden her and Jonathan spend more time in season 5, it could just as quickly flip back because
Yeah, it's like who she's
it kind
closest to at
yeah,
the
it's
time.
kind of who she has the time to spend with. Also, she might just join the military because she's a gun expert now. So
That's a
Were
theory.
you guys getting Sarah Connor vibes? I mean, talk about the
yeah.
references. This was
Mm.
all just T2 Sarah Connor, one hand, reloading the shotgun, just
But she was
bam
badass.
over and over
She
again.
was
Yeah.
badass. Her turn to being badass and Murray's turn to being badass are two of my favorite moments of the
Yes.
entire. That scene with Murray in the airplane in the first part of the.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was jumping off of the couch, and when Nancy was going into her vibe too. Those are
Yeah.
two of my favorite moments there.
So many great hero moments. Even like Yuri got his 5 seconds to
Yeah.
shine, pulling the helicopter into the prison and helping everybody out. That was pretty awesome. Can I give a shout out to Paul Reiser? This is the second coming of Paul Reiser. Not only was he great in this season, but he's also killing it on The Boys. If you're not watching The Boys, Paul Reiser is
Oh
freaking
yeah,
hysterical. He is so good, and like way more crude on that series. So watch out. You've been warned.
you don't know what you're getting into with that show at this point. I mean,
No,
that's
not
kind of on
at
you.
all. Anybody who we sort of haven't talked about. I think we've talked about nearly everybody here.
Yeah, I
Who-
mean, Lucas's sister, kind of becoming more part of the group. I don't think. I mean, I don't think anything would happen to her in the end necessarily. Um, but she was, obviously. And speaking of the stuff with Lucas and I think it was Jason or whatever, the other basketball player who just like tackles her and is like threatening to break her arm behind her back. I was like, dude,
What a
she's like
jerk!
11. Yeah.
Even younger than that. Man of Sand is on YouTube. Says hi. What is up? We're
Hello.
enjoying our Stranger Things talk. Did you enjoy Stranger Things, the finale? Let us know. Season 4. All right. Yeah, should we get into some, final thoughts about all this? Let's see. Any other thoughts about season 4? Anything else that really stuck out to you? Your favorite moment? I'll quickly go. This was an amazing season. It's probably my favorite so far. It's probably up there with season 2, but I think this one's my favorite. Mostly because they introduced me to Kate Bush and Running Up That Hill, which I've not listened to in a few days, and that's been the longest that I've not
What?
heard it. Um, and also introducing an epic version of Separate Ways by Journey, the perfect song for that freaking moment. And
Yeah.
somebody who used to play in a Journey cover band, you can never have too much of Journey. And then just introducing half the world to Metallica, who didn't get into it. For those fans who are getting crap online for enjoying that song and now becoming fans of Metallica, we accept you with open arms. I am not the biggest fan of Metallica, but I've been to their shows. They are incredible. And so I am a fan. We welcome you. And there's a lot to dive into with Metallica. Decades
Yeah.
worth of content
Well,
and material.
I'm a Virginia Tech long time fan. I grew up in Blacksburg, Virginia, and ever since I think 1995, it was a couple years before Mariano Rivera. What was his name? The Yankees pitcher started coming
You're
out
right.
to
Yeah,
that
Rivera,
Inner
yeah.
Sandman. But
Right.
Virginia Tech's entrance is Inner Sandman, and the stadium gets rocking. It's the number one entrance in college football. Been a Metallica fan my whole life, and to see Master of Puppets
Yeah.
playing in that moment. I mean, in the visuals and everything was just it was so new. Like I don't know, just you never hear that type of music in movies or TV right now.
Yeah.
Man of
You know,
Sand
they're
says, go ahead.
good. I was just gonna say their use of music. I mean, throughout the whole series, but especially like it helped create like to me, after part one, that running up the hill scene with Max running through with the song, like I was like, oh, this is gonna become an iconic scene. And then part two comes out and Eddie playing Master of Puppets, like, okay, that's an iconic scene now. I sent you the joke, Ted. I was like, Beatles at Shea, Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. Now we got Eddie Munson in the Upside Down, just like greatest concerts of all time. Um, I mean, their use of music and, like you said, the separate ways Journey song was just great, and I think they've done a good job throughout the whole series of using music. And one other small thing, kind of coming back to that, I've seen a lot of people joking like when Max was up in the air and then Lucas was fighting with that guy and he stepped on the headsets. Like people were like, after he knocked him out, did y'all think Lucas was going to start singing Kate Bush to try to
Yes,
bring her
I
back?
actually did.
For a split second, I was like, is he going to start having to sing? Yeah. I had a split second thought like that too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Funny.
Real quick, because I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter about this, which that's what you do. Somebody had brought up like,
Politics.
no, no, well, not only
Just
that,
kidding.
but somebody had brought up running up that hill, that it wasn't some like major song. It was just like a random song throw in, and it's like, listen, no, these things are like well thought out, and the story behind using that song was that the music director for the show and the Duffer Brothers went to go find the perfect song that was going to be Max's sort of tune to use throughout season 4. Well, they the music director only came up with one song. She didn't go through a list of them. She didn't go through the entire 80s catalog. She knew this is the perfect song. She had it in the back of her mind. She brought it to the Duffer Brothers and they said, "We have a song too." It turned out to be the exact same song. They came up with the exact same song to use as this rescue song for Max, and they used it throughout the season because it was that damn good. So yes, it was a big song. Its influence, its playability, how catchy it is. Kate Bush is like an incredible artist who I just found out about this year. I apologize, Kate, but yes, I did. I've gone through the rabbit hole now and the Kate Bush song catalog, so I know a lot more about her now than I did a year ago. Wow.
Real quick, as a
Yeah.
WrestleCaster, I want to throw this in, connecting to Kate Bush and that song. Um, One of the most famous matches in WWE history is Shawn Michaels Undertaker won at WrestleMania 25. They have a rematch the next year, which is Shawn Michaels' last match, his retirement. One of the things WWE is really good at is making like packages, video packages, before the matches at WrestleMania to kind of go back through the feud so you can kind of like catch up and get hyped for the match. And in the second match, they do this to a cover of that song by a band called Placebo,
Mm,
right? So it
right.
was
Yeah.
kind of funny after this hit at the beginning of June. I started seeing these TikToks and people were like, "Oh, y'all know running up that hill from Stranger Things. I know it from," and then they would show the video package, and it's really good. And then it's funny, like I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I remember that." I didn't know what the song was,
Yeah.
but it was one of their best packages they've done, and it fit like it fit there and it fits here in this scene. And even you're talking about how they chose it specifically. Like even if you listen to the words, like the famous words, like "If I could ask God, I'd ask him to swap our places." I think it fits in with what's going on there and what they're all going through. So I
Tremendous.
like
It's
it.
iconic. It's an iconic moment of television now. It's always
Yeah.
going to be an iconic moment of television. We will never forget it when they had that moment. I'm not going to forget about Lo and Matt. Lo, your final thoughts on season 4, your favorite moment, anything else you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, music is a huge thing, especially in my world too, with being in radio and all of that. And the scoring of this entire series has always been very, very good. But I think this season in particular, it's just been really tremendous. Really quick, going back to just kind of a theory, playing Max, the Kate Bush running up that hill, saved her from the upside down. Maybe that's how they bring her out of the coma next season. Throw those headphones back on.
Wouldn't it be
Um,
interesting if that was it? Yeah.
Mhm.
but some other moments, I really liked all the little Easter eggs that they planted. I think if you're a true fan of the show and if you're really into looking for those things, one of Eddie's tattoos was a bunch of bats. It kind of a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Mm.
Just the Michael Myers odes here and there throughout the season has been fun to watch. So that's something I'm looking forward to in season 5 too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matthew, season 4
Yeah,
thoughts.
I thought it was good. Final thoughts on the season. It was great. It was a masterclass in TV, and I know that my opinion on it isn't that I didn't love it because really only because it didn't meet my expectations of what I wanted to happen. Not that it didn't meet expectations of great and excellent TV. I thought it was incredible. I'm very, very upset that it's going to take so long to kind of figure out what's happening next. I feel very invested in the story right now, and that's how you know it's good TV, when you sort of feel heartbroken or lonely after it goes, because you're used to having this thing to go on. So I know that. And a lot of other people feel the same way. I think it's getting great reviews, and I think it deserves it. I think the Duffer Brothers knocked it out of the park with this one, and I agree. Of the four, it's my favorite of the 4 seasons, and that one was really good too. Two was really good. Three, I liked it a little bit, but this four is really good.
Absolutely. It was definitely a bold choice to have this core group like all separated. I thought like, how in the world does this show get to a finale when we have all these people on different continents and different states, and yet they found a way to make it work? Not to get too far off topic, but an animated series that I watched that's from DC Comics is Young Justice, and they did sort of a similar format where we have a main cast, a main group, and they kind of focused on each main character individually over the span of 3 episodes, and they did that the entire season and sort of brought them all together at the end of the season. I highly recommend you start watching Young Justice if you're not. The best animated series ever by DC? That's a big question mark. It's up there.
No,
Top
I mean,
three.
come on.
Top three for
By
sure. Top three
DC,
for sure.
the
Top
Batman the
three for
Animated
sure.
Series is by far the best.
Top three for sure.
Come on, Super Friends from the 80s. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go. No, but seriously, bold choice. They stuck the landing. I didn't know how they were going to pull it off, and they did. They really did. Season 5, I think you have to go bigger. You really do, and you already went big in season 4. Different continents fighting Russians, like you got to go bigger than that. And I think the only thing to do is start turning this into an all-out war between humanity and the Upside Down. And I'm not trying to say like humanity has a fighting chance. It's still going to depend on this group of individuals, this group of kids, and they're still going to have to come up with the way to fix everything. How they get there, I'm not going to try and tell you how they're going to get there. I feel like season 5 will probably have to be shorter, probably 5 or 6 episodes, probably not an hour long each way. But this was also like a massive undertaking. Each episode averaged out to around $30 million, which is, I think, a record in TV history.
Probably.
I
Yeah.
think Lord of the Rings is up there too. I don't know how much exactly it was, but yeah, cannot wait. Man of Sand says, yeah, they didn't pull punches in the show. They were totally raw. And what else? Have you seen the anime trailer for Stranger Things? No, I need to check that out. That sounds dope. Absolutely, I got to check that out. Let's see here. Just like everything else in the show, the music really promoted the 80s vibe. Today's younger generation who have no experience with 80s stuff now get to discover it as brand new. It's up to you, parents. I'm looking at you guys out there. My 3-year-old daughter, she loves the 80s. She loves everything about it. So I highly recommend you raise your kids right and get them listening to some Hall & Oates, New Wave, Journey, hair metal bands, the whole nine. Make sure that you do that. It's up to you. It is up to us, parents of the world, to raise our kids right. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, this has been a tremendous season and a lot of fun to talk about. Probably next season we'll do it episode by episode, just because the Netflix format is different. Like everybody binges everything just like we do, so it's kind of hard to just do it one episode by one episode. But yeah, this has been very exciting. Great to talk about. What a tremendous season. They
Yeah.
just did so much with it. It was unbelievable. Loved it. Let's see. We will get back to our normal scheduled program next week. We will talk about the finale. of Superman and Lois. We need to finish that up, and we'll get caught up with Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, which is just so damn charming. It's so damn charming. It's a great
Yeah, I
Really
like
good
cast.
show.
episode 4 a lot too, and episode. I mean, it feels a little bit CW to me at some points for a Disney Plus show, but I think it's incredibly charming, and what a good way to let bring in a character that most people aren't familiar with, that kind of got turned into a different character. It's just a clever way for them to kind of bring that back into the fold. I think it's good, but anyways, we'll save that.
Absolutely. And also next week we will be reviewing Thor 4, aka Thor Love and Thunder. So we'll have the Geekcast back, your original cast, to talk about Thor Love and Thunder. It should be exciting. Taika's a great director, great sense of humor. I'm hoping he puts out another banger. Ragnarok is widely praised, so I feel like it's going to still follow suit, but I can't wait. Christian Bale too as a villain, like that's got to be good, right?
Yeah, and then I mean, if anyone's on the fence about seeing that, apparently, according to Taika, you see the full bottom of Chris Hemsworth in that scene. It's not pixelated in the movie,
Sold.
so there you go. Right? I mean, I can only imagine. So
What else do you need?
honestly, I'm also looking forward to Korg. He was my favorite character from Ragnarok. We saw a little bit of him in Endgame and stuff, but yeah, I look forward to seeing that. Taika's done great with this. Also uses music very well. Kind of
Yes,
connected it to what we've been talking about. So yeah, looking forward to that this weekend.
absolutely. Lots to look forward to. We're all very excited about it. And now I can go back and get back to my Kate Bush songs and fall asleep like I do to them every single night. For the Gantown City Geekcast, my name is Steady. With me on the Stranger Things Season 4 Part 2 discussion episode is the one and only Mike.
Thanks, guys. Be good to each other.
And we also got the best couple in San Antonio, Maddie and Lauren.
Thanks for having us.
Peace out, guys.